morning, everyone. Buenos días, mi gente. Welcome to Cafecito con HACE. My name is Linet Correa Velez, and I'm the VP of Leadership Programs at HACE. If you have never heard of us, we are the Hispanic Alliance for Career Enhancement. We're a national nonprofit headquartered in Chicago, Illinois, founded in 1982, dedicated to the employment, development, and advancement of current and aspiring Latino professionals. Our mission is to positively impact the American workplace by cultivating the pipeline of Latino talent and providing Latino professionals the insight, access, and of course, support to be successful in their careers. Today, we have Marne Smiley, CEO of Bumper Lanes, as well as leader for the Chicago American Indian Community Collaborative. Before we get into interviewing Marne, I do have a few amazing events to let you know about. So you are more than welcome to join us next week on December 4th, Wednesday, December 4th at 10 a.m. for our Spring 2025 programs info session. This is a special cafecito with my staff, which is great. I'm so excited for that. And we're going to share some more information regarding our December 11th spring info session. And then next week as well, I cannot believe it's going to be December already. On December 5th at 6 p.m., we're going to have a hybrid event called the Leadership Circle in Chicago. So you're more than welcome to register to join us virtually from wherever you are in the U.S. Or if you're going to be in Chicago on December 5th, at 6 p.m., please join us in person. And of course, all events are free. So without further ado, I have the amazing and legendary Marne Smiley here. Marne, please introduce yourself and let the audience know, how do you like your cafecito prepared or your morning beverage of choice? Because I know I do love my coffee.
I love it. So hello, all you lovely folks. I am Marne Smiley. As has already been confirmed, I am with Chicago American Indian Community Collaborative, or we like to say CAICC for short, because it's kind of a long name. And what do I like to drink in the morning? So I am a worker outer. I actually used to be a professional mountain biker. So I wake up and I try to get some activities done, and I'm usually having some kind of electrolyte drink or water post-workout, but I don't ever do caffeine. So I am I just run on adrenaline, for better or for worse.
I love it. I am definitely taking notes. I want to be like you when I grow up. For now, I need caffeine, but definitely love to chat offline in regards to that. And, tell us a little bit more, Marne, about your cultural background, professional background, and any other intersecting identities. The audience would love to hear more.
I love it. So I have 100 identities. I've been honored. The creator's given me a lot of opportunity to do a lot of different things, but I come from the Jawadi-Natachi people, which is Otoe-Missouria. Before we had the Trail of Tears, where they relocated all the native people from their land to their reservations, our tribe was located in what's now Kansas or the Missouri River Valley. And that's a little bit of the personal background. The other part of me, I'm about half Native, and then the rest of me is Ashkenazi Jew and Irish. So as one of my best friends said, like, my people wanted to survive. Like, I am here for a gosh darn reason. And I hope everyone here feels like they're here for a gosh darn reason, because there was a lot of strife happening in my blood background. Just some other little tidbits about, I guess, some personal things, is I was a military brat. So Air Force, both my parents were in the Air Force. And we also raised 23 foster kids in our home. So we have definitely this heart of servitude that my parents grew up. Just, if you have any kind of military inclination, I feel like a lot of those folks joined to serve, and that's what they did. And then professionally, you probably see I have kind of two bios here, and as I was explaining this beforehand, I have a full service marketing agency, and I've been doing that for 7 or 8 years and always in marketing in some way. And CAICC was just this little nonprofit that just needed a little bit of help. And so I came in and took them on as a kind of a small client in my community that I got to serve back to. Well, now it's really grown up. We have almost 20 organizations. We're the largest voice for Native people in the Chicago and Illinois area. We've helped pass multiple bills. We've worked on a national level for sure. Certainly at a state level, have done a lot of impact. And so now they've kind of taken over a lot of my energy and work in such a great way, because I get to do both. I get to do marketing and I get to serve my community and give voices to people that may not always have a voice for themselves.
For sure. I mean, I hear a lot of love in your background. I hear a lot of servant leadership. If you can just share a little bit more about the mission of CAICC and what you all do within the Chicago area and beyond.
Yeah. So CAICC's, I would say, main objective, we have two. Internally, we want to make sure that we are representing the voice of the Native people. And like anything else, just my voice is not the voice of every Native person. I am my own person who's had my own set of experiences with my culture, the same as everyone on this call. And so we really have to be very mindful of who we're representing. A lot of the Native community is very much suffering. They're living paycheck to paycheck. They're have some of the highest suicide rates, highest high school dropout rates, highest, drug use rates. And so I'm lucky enough that I haven't experienced a lot of those things directly, but I am very mindful that this is the community that I have the honor of representing. So we really try to make sure that we're representing the voice of the people and their needs and wants. And then we take that out to the rest of the world. Sometimes it's from an advocacy standpoint where we actually are going and we're meeting with legislators. And sometimes it's great calls like this where we get to expose other folks to the work that we're doing. And sometimes it's actually working with funders or organizers or communities or companies that just want to learn more about the community in general.
Absolutely. I mean, CAICC is doing such amazing work, and they're absolutely lucky to have you as one of their leaders. I did hear you once speak on a panel, and it was actually our panel for Latina Equal Pay Day. And you said something really powerful in regards to individuals in the US who speak Spanish, right? You said something along the lines of, if you speak Spanish, realize that you also this. Share a little bit more with the audience with that.
I try to know the audience. So I don't want to push the line too much, but I was saying this on the call before we started this, is that most folks that do have a Spanish speaking background in the Americas were likely experience the same indigenous path that the indigenous people do. You were speaking your indigenous language, and maybe it was so far back that you may not have that identity anymore, but it's in your blood. If you're from the Americas, that is your background. And it's so much a part of a lot of those folks' experiences that colonizers came in and took your culture, took your language, took your people. In the case of us, killed, for my tribe in particular, there were mandates to kill buffalo, which was our main food source. If you were in the Southwest, there was mandates to take all the horses. If you were in the Northeast, it was not drugs, it was disease and other things that killed you. So
right.
A lot of the same things that impacted your community impacted our community, maybe just a touch later.
For sure. And, I really appreciate you knowing that. And if you don't know your history or her story or their story, you won't know where you're going. So definitely really appreciate that information that you just gave. As we do observe Native American Heritage Month, are there any particular traditions or stories that hold special significance for you?
Oh my gosh. Well, I personally and my family doesn't celebrate Thanksgiving. It's kind of a lot of Native people call it a day of mourning feast. And it's a little tongue in cheek because, you know, the
Yeah.
actual first experience of Thanksgiving wasn't the pilgrims sit down and the natives do this. It was these
Mm-hmm.
folks were dying. They were
Right.
barely making it. And the native people said, well, we can't let this happen. And that's just true of a lot of tribal, no matter what tribe you're talking to, that's very much living on the land, helping the people. And I think I really identify with y'all's culture in that way too, because I
Yeah.
feel like it's very much from this place of just really wanting to help other people
Mm-hmm.
and living off the land and understanding the importance of kind of the human connection that kind of gets lost in some
Yeah.
of that conquistador or, you know,
That's right.
other actions that they just, it's maybe not as important part of their culture.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you for sharing that. And, you know, in regards to your identity, tell us in regards to, and please post your questions in the chat. You have gotten some love here from, let's see, New York City, San Antonio, Texas. Let's see.
Well,
Brooklyn, Atlanta, Georgia. So definitely folks from across the U.S. are chiming in and listening in. Thank you all for being here. So, you know, in regards to your intersecting identities, you know, how has that shaped your life and or professional experiences? And what are some misconceptions about the Native American culture that you'd like to, you know, talk about?
I think I am so lucky that I have all of these different identities because I get all these different experiences and that I get to be over here and do this and over here and do this. And I studied in Spain, so I feel like I do know Spanish enough to maybe not embarrass myself. But I'm
Awesome.
sure I
Awesome.
still embarrass myself. But to be able to live in all these different cultures and to embrace it, I feel like some people see it as a lost identity because they're not living, like I'm not living on the reservation. And so
Mm,
I'm not living with my people. And then
mhm.
that's not really our original land. So that's kind of a bummer too. And then, you know, the way that our community would have lived doesn't exist anymore either. Um, but that's not how I feel. I feel very lucky. And as I started this conversation out, that my ancestors fought to have me here.
Mhm.
They are just celebrating the fact that I exist. And I hope that's how most people feel, that we are all like honored and
Mhm.
lucky and excited to be here. And it's a big part of what I think about. And I don't, I think it's hard to honor the past and still grow into the future. And so that's something that's constantly on my mind and probably constantly on a lot of Native people's mind because it is a dichotomy a little bit to live in both worlds. So I guess it's kind of like some of the personal side of it. Um,
Yeah, and that's something that I would imagine many folks in the audience can attest to, being bilingual, bicultural, or multilingual, multicultural, right? It is. I mean, that should be normalized, in my
yeah,
opinion.
it's a
um,
beautiful thing.
it's a beautiful thing, quite frankly. If you talk to people, you know, globally, most folks are multilingual, multicultural, or multiracial, multi-ethnic. So I, you know, plus one to what you just said, and completely and utterly agree. I'm
Mhm.
going to see if there's any questions in the chat. I want to make sure we're not missing anyone. Um, so for you, you know, what does the future hold for Cake and or Bumper Lanes?
Woo! I'll answer that, and then I want to go back to some of the misconceptions as well
Oh,
because
please,
there
yes.
are a
Let's do
lot.
that.
But I think the future for Cake is we are definitely expanding our footprint and our voice. And the Native community is hard to break into, even when you're Native. My tribe is what most people know is the Dakota Lakota, the Ogalas, which is in English called the Sioux. And so that's what most people's minds are. People on horses, the big headdresses, guys in loincloths and teepees. That's not most tribes. So there's just, and I know we have people from all over the place here. And, I heard in New York, that's more of, you're living in like a woodland area. And so it's very different on what CAICC gets to represent. So I think as we expand the bills that we're working on, the advocacy work that we're doing, is we want to continue to expand our reach across the state. And right now we're definitely Chicago focused, but we impact all the work that across Chicago or across the whole state. And that's really special for us.
No, for sure. And, some maybe 1 to 2 misconceptions about Native American culture, Indigenous peoples. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can say both. Most people will respond to both. What I would not say, even though it's in CAICC's name, is American Indian. That's kind of taken the downfall for a lot of reasons. First of all, we get mixed up with the other Indians, but it's just not as representative of the community as much. I would say some of the misconceptions that come in our community is, I think folks don't realize how much we're still here, and that kind of gets lost in a lot of conversation. Even when you're filling out census, like having the Native Americans on there, we had to fight to even have our box on the census. All the polling we just had, I don't know if you guys heard, there was an election a few weeks ago.
just a tad. Right.
And even the polling data that came out of that, it was saying, oh, Native support, they leaned more to the red, but none of the places that they polled were on tribal lands or so it's just a bad representation, and we get lost in stats all freaking day long. Like we did one stat, we were looped in with the Latinas. We did another in Chicago, we were looped in with the Asian population, and these just don't represent the same things that we're going through.
Yeah, for sure. Like many communities, there's a whole spectrum of ideas, ideologies. And so being able to name that, particularly in Native American communities, I think is really important as well. So, we just have a couple minutes more together. Definitely want to end on a lighter note. What are some things that you're hopeful for? A positive story that gives you hope. We're already, next week is December, so we're 5 weeks away to the end of 2024.
I know, it's crazy. Some things that I think we're super looking forward to is every year we take a bus full of Native folks down to our capital, and we advocate and we help pass bills. And this year we are already getting a really good response. And we're taking a much larger stance on an international level. The fact that Chicago was able to host the DNC, we met a bunch of Native communities that came into town, tribal nations that came into town. And all these tribal nations were definitely impressed with the collaborative work that we're doing in Chicago. And that's kind of unusual. And that feels very special. And to be able to help other communities potentially replicate that. Working in a collaborative is not easy work. It takes time. It takes a lot of energy. It takes patience. It takes a lot of listening.
Yeah, that's right.
But it's after doing this for 3 to 4 years, it's working. If you had asked me when this first started, I would have been like, I don't know, This is crazy, but it's finally working. But it does take time and some very committed members. And I'm so happy that that's where we are now.
Absolutely. We have about a minute left. Are there any announcements that you'd like to share with folks?
So you can probably see the work that we're doing. I think the URL was posted there. I'm obviously happy to talk with anyone who has any other questions or wants to know more. We give a talk called Have You Met a Native? And it talks about misconceptions and the history and why our group is uniquely situated in where it is and how our impact with the federal government has been. But just if there's other things that you're interested in, there's a great exhibition in person at the Newberry Library in downtown Chicago.
Great.
Represents the Native experience from the Midwest. It's called Indigenous Chicago, and it's all online experience if you have that, and it's definitely worth it. Indigenous Chicago, great maps, great information, some of the most comprehensive look at some of the work that's being done.
I love it. So, Marnie, thank you so much. The CAICC website will be posted in the chat below. If folks want to get in touch with Marnie, her LinkedIn will be posted as well as my LinkedIn. Please reach out. Virtual round of applause for Marnie. Thank you so much again for attending Cafecito con ACE, and see you next Wednesday. Thank you all.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.